My name is Daniel and I'm 34 years old. When I was 9 years old, I watched my father pack a suitcase at midnight while my mother sat on the stairs, saying nothing. He told me he was working out of town for a while. He never came back. I remember the exact sound of the front door closing, soft, careful, like he didn't want to wake anyone up, even though he was the one leaving. I remember counting the stairs, all 14 of them, because counting was easier than crying. For 25 years, I promised myself I would never be the reason a child sat on those stairs. I built my whole life around being the man who stays. I was the husband who called if he was 10 minutes late. I was the father who never missed a school pickup. For 6 years, I tried to give my wife, Melissa, everything my mother never had: steadiness, warning, a man who told the truth even when it cost him something. The turning point in my life wasn't my wedding day. It was a Tuesday morning 3 years ago, in a hospital waiting room, when a nurse named Grace sat down next to me while I was waiting on news about my mother's surgery. Grace was 36, an ICU nurse, and she didn't know me at all. But she noticed my hands were shaking, and she got me a paper cup of water without being asked. She said, "You don't have to hold it together in front of me." I never forgot that. Grace and I stayed friends over the years, nothing more. But she taught me something my marriage hadn't, that real care doesn't announce itself. It just shows up quietly, in small, specific ways. That's what made the last 4 months so hard to understand. It started small. Melissa began saying she was working late again at least twice a week. Then 3 times. Then it became so normal that I stopped asking questions, because asking questions made me feel like my father, suspicious, controlling, the kind of man who doesn't trust the people he loves. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself 6 years of marriage had earned us both the benefit of the doubt. 14 days before our 6th wedding anniversary, Melissa called me at 9:40 p.m. Her voice was quiet, clipped. "Working late again," she whispered, like she didn't want someone near her to hear the call. Then she hung up before I could even say goodnight to her. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time after that call. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock above the stove. Our daughter, Emma, who was 7, had left her drawing on the table, a picture of the 3 of us standing in front of our house, holding hands. I looked at that drawing for a long time. 2 days later, a hotel confirmation email landed in our shared family inbox by mistake, the one we used for grocery deliveries and Emma's school newsletters. It was a reservation for a downtown hotel, dated the night Melissa said she was working late. 1 room. 2 guests. Checkout time, 11 a.m. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't yell. I did what I always do when something breaks in me. I went quiet, and I got organized. I want to be fair to Melissa, because this isn't a cartoon villain story. Melissa grew up watching her own mother lose everything in a divorce: the house, the friends, the standing in their small town, because her father controlled every account, every document, every decision. Melissa was terrified, in her own words once, of ever being the one left with nothing. I think, somewhere in her fear, she convinced herself that keeping secrets was the same thing as keeping safety. It wasn't an excuse. But it was human. What Melissa didn't know was that 4 months earlier, before any of this started, I had already done something quiet of my own. Not out of suspicion, out of habit, the habit of a boy who once watched his father leave with everything and his mother left holding nothing. When we refinanced our house that spring, I made sure the deed was held jointly, with a clause protecting my half regardless of the circumstances of any future separation. I had also, on the advice of my accountant, moved my half of our joint savings into an account solely in my name after my mother passed and left me a small inheritance. Standard advice, nothing hidden. Melissa had seen the paperwork and signed off on the account structure herself. I wasn't protecting myself against her. I was protecting our family the way I wished someone had protected mine. There was one more complication before I said anything. My sister, Rachel, found out first. She'd seen Melissa's car outside the same hotel on a different night, picking up her own kids from a birthday party across the street. Rachel wanted to tell me immediately. I asked her not to. I told her I needed 1 week to be sure, to gather what I needed calmly, without turning our home into a war zone before I even understood what was happening. Rachel disagreed with me. You're always so calm, Daniel, she said. Sometimes calm just means quiet suffering. I told her this time, calm was a choice, not a wound. She wasn't sure she believed me. Neither, honestly, was I. The confrontation happened on a Sunday, at Melissa's parents' house, during our usual monthly family dinner. 12 of us were at the table, Melissa's parents, her brother and his wife, Rachel, Emma, and a few cousins. Melissa's mother had just finished saying grace when Melissa's phone lit up on the table with a text from a name I didn't recognize. Same room Thursday? Melissa reached for the phone quickly, but her father had already seen it. The table went quiet in that specific way rooms go quiet, fork stopping mid-air, someone's glass halfway to their mouth. I didn't raise my voice. I set my fork down and looked at Melissa. I know about the hotel, I said. I've known for 12 days. Melissa's face went pale. She started to explain, something about a coworker, a work trip, a misunderstanding, but the words came out thin, like she didn't believe them either. This isn't about catching you, I said. It's about the house. The deed has protected my half for 4 months now. Legally, factually, that part of our life was never in question. I wasn't scared of losing the house, Melissa. I was scared of losing you honestly. Her mother put a hand over her mouth. Her father set down his napkin, quiet, ashamed on his daughter's behalf. Rachel reached over and squeezed my hand under the table. Emma, thankfully, was in the next room with her cousins, laughing at something on a tablet, too young to understand what was breaking. Melissa didn't have an answer. She sat there, staring at the tablecloth, and for the first time in 4 months, she looked like she was telling the truth of someone who'd been caught, not by anger, but by quiet, patient fact. In the weeks that followed, Melissa moved out of our house temporarily while we figured out what came next. I didn't fight to keep everything. I told her she could take her half of the furniture, her half of the savings we'd built together honestly, and I asked for one thing in return, full custody stability for Emma during the week, with Melissa having every weekend, so our daughter's life would stay as steady as I could make it. Melissa cried when I offered that. She said she expected me to punish her. I told her punishing her wouldn't unbreak anything, and Emma needed both of us whole, not both of us bitter. Grace, the ICU nurse who once handed me a paper cup of water in a hospital waiting room, called to check on me the week after. We talked for an hour. Nothing romantic, just two people who'd learned, in very different ways, what it costs to hold things together quietly. She said, "You did the hard part right, Daniel. You stayed calm without staying quiet forever." I think about that sentence a lot. 6 months later, our anniversary came and went differently than I'd imagined it would when I married Melissa. Instead, I spent that evening making pancakes with Emma, the two of us listening to her favorite songs in the kitchen, syrup on the counter, her laugh filling up the whole house. The drawing she made months earlier, the three of us holding hands, is still on our fridge. I haven't taken it down. Some things you keep, even when the shape of your family changes. I sit on our back porch some evenings now, coffee in hand, and I think about those 14 stairs I used to count as a boy. I don't count them anymore. I don't need to. I know now that staying calm isn't the same as staying silent, and being patient isn't the same as being powerless. For years I thought love meant never asking hard questions. I've learned it actually means being brave enough to ask them, and steady enough to survive the answers. If you've ever sat in a room where the truth finally became too loud to ignore, you already understand what I mean. If you've ever quietly protected your peace before anyone else even knew it needed protecting, you understand too. Breaking a cycle doesn't always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a deed with 2 names on it, a calm sentence at a dinner table, and a father making pancakes on a Sunday morning that used to be an anniversary. If this story meant something to you, if any part of it felt familiar, consider subscribing. Every story here is for someone who needed to hear it, maybe today, that someone was you.